Hi, I'm Laura and welcome to class today. Today's class is going to focus on being safe for those who have osteoporosis. So osteoporosis is a condition that reduces bone density in the body. So things that are contraindicative of osteoporosis are particularly movements of the spine. So things like forward flexion. Okay, so forward flexion is the action of doing, say, a spine stretch or a standing roll down or an abdominal curl. Things that involve bending the spine forwards. Okay, so that's one thing that we would say to avoid. Another thing is loaded flexion. So things in your exercise classes or Pilates classes that involve rolling, so roll back or rolling like a ball or your roll over, things like that we wouldn't advise to do. And also loaded flexion with rotation. So for example, the roll back with rotation or the corkscrew where we would roll over, the legs going over the head. So things like that we wouldn't advise to do. So the class today is going to move through some exercises that you may be familiar with, particularly if you've done Pilates before, but it's all going to be safe for the spine. So if you do have any other spinal conditions as well as osteoporosis, it's going to be good for all that. Okay, so we're going to make our way down onto the mat, and as always, just make sure that you're safe with your body, you're looking after yourselves as we come down. So if you do have any spinal conditions, rolling down is not advised. So what I would do is roll down onto your side or lower yourself onto your side and then roll onto your back and adjust your body. So we're going to start in supine and just find our alignment. So we want our feet comfortable distance from our bottom and our heels roughly in line with our two sitting bones, knees the same distance as your feet. And then just allowing the tailbone to be down and the pelvis, the back of the pelvis to feel heavy on the mat. And we want to here be able to bring the back ribs down and to feel the chin slightly towards the chest, the back of the neck is long, and naturally rise will look forwards on the ceiling. Now if it's difficult to bring the back ribs down, you feel that you've got a space between the back of your ribs and the mat, here's where you may need to pop a pillow, a towel or something underneath your head that can lift your head higher, which is going to make it easier to bring your back ribs down to the mat. So once we've got that alignment, what we want to do is bring our hands to our front of our pelvis and identify where your two pelvic bones are and your pubic bone. And we're just going to check that those three bones are level. So take any adjustments in your pelvis, whether you need to move it backwards or forwards, to allow those three bones to be level. So this is our neutral pelvic alignment. And then just double checking those anchor points. So back ribs are still down, shoulders are still wide, and neck is still long. And we should have now a small space or a feeling of lightness at your lower back. So this is optimum position of our spine. This is neutral pelvic and spine alignment. And particularly for anyone with osteoporosis, we try and train this position a lot, which helps to strengthen the muscles that support the spine. So keeping this position, bring your hands to your front bottom ribs, slide them wide. Begin to breathe in through the nose and out through your mouth for your thoracic lateral breath. Imagine the back ribs and the side ribs expanding to the sides of your mat, and then exhale and feel the back ribs deepen into the mat. The back body, so those checkpoints that are in contact with the floor, feel heavier to the mat. And again, breathing in through the nose and then out through the mouth. Now each out breath that we do, we're going to notice how naturally the abdominals engage. So on your next out breath, consciously draw the navel in towards the spine. And on your in breath, from now on, keep that control of navel to spine. And on your out breath, reinforce it. That engages our deep abdominal muscle called transverse abdominis. And then come into the pelvis, visualizing the pubic bone at the front, the tailbone and your two sitting bones at the back of your pelvis. And visualize those narrowing on your next out breath, as well as drawing the navel in. So we're now connecting with transverse abdominis and your pelvic floor. And we're going to do 2 more breaths just here, controlling those 2 muscles on your in-breath and reinforcing them on your out-breath. And then once you've finished with that second breath, bring your hands to your pelvis again. Identify those 3 bones and bring your first fingers and thumbs together to make your pelvic triangle. On your out-breath, tip your pelvis backwards, bringing your triangle up towards your chest, and then you're going to tip your pelvis back to neutral, so leveling the 3 bones at the front of your pelvis. So using your out-breath to tip the pelvis back, and your in-breath to tip the pelvis forwards. So this is bringing some mobility to the lower back and the pelvic area while we're using the abdominal muscles to do so. So this is not loaded flexion because abdominals are supporting us. Gravity is helping and aiding this exercise. Loading the spine would be lots of compression from the top. So gravity is coming down on the front of our spine here, which is a lot more safe. So last one, and when the pelvis comes back to neutral, I'd like you to keep this position. Reinforce those checkpoints in the back of your body, deepening into the mat. We're going to begin with some leg work here. So on your next out breath, open one knee out to the side into a knee drop, only as far as you can. Keep your pelvis still, and then bring the knee back in. We're going to do the same side. So breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth again, just taking a breath pattern that feels comfortable for yourself. And as the weight of the leg comes out, that's going to force the opposite side of your pelvis to lift off the mat, but instead can you deepen it into the mat. This is going to work your side abdominal muscles in the capacity to help stabilize your pelvis. So just one more this side, trying to keep the opposite leg really still and in line with the hip, and then changing sides. So opening out, can you keep your back ribs on the mat, and then back in. So the more that we work towards moving the leg only as far as we can stabilize, the more this becomes an abdominal exercise. So we're training those deep abdominal muscles to work on protecting the spine and keeping it safe. And just checking in, can you keep your neck and your shoulders relaxed as you're doing this? So really taking our mind to just the muscles that we need to be working. And when this knee comes back in, we're going to change this movement. We're going to come back to the first leg. So taking an out breath when you're ready, deepen the back body into the floor and lift the first leg up. Now take an inhale here, deepen the opposite hip into the mat, and then exhale lower to the ground, any amount, and lift back up. And we're going to keep going with this leg, and we're going to do 3 more repetitions. Now this for me becomes more challenging because my front ribs want to lift up, my back ribs want to lift off the mat. So if you're finding this really difficult, again, to keep the back ribs down, popping something underneath the head is going to make this a little bit more achievable. Okay, so when this foot finds the mat this time, we're going to lower it all the way down, place it to the floor, and then change sides. So this exercise is challenging. It may look really simple, but that is probably the beauty of Pilates, really. If you make something look easy, you've got it nailed. Okay, so the more we feel that we're moving with ease, with the thing that we're moving, the more it's going to challenge the rest of the body to stay still. So when you lower this foot, keep it all the way to the mat. We're going to go back to the first leg. We're going to challenge this more. So when the leg lifts, this time on your out breath, we're going to extend the leg out, draw the navel deeper in towards the spine, and then back to tabletop. So what we want to check here is that the weight of the leg isn't arching the lower back. So what I think of doing is when my leg reaches away, drawing my navel deeper towards my spine and almost lifting my pubic bottom up towards my belly button slightly. So instead of my lower back lifting, what it does is draws towards the ground because my abdominal muscles are enforcing it to do that. and then bringing that foot all the way down. So if we find that when we reach the leg out, we can't do anything but lift the lower back, we don't feel that the abdominals have got the control, and we're not allowing the pelvic floor to lift, what I would suggest is staying with a bent leg and lowering and lifting. What you can also do is only extend the leg as far out as you can control, so it may not be to a straight leg, or you may be taking the leg higher up towards the ceiling. So the lower the leg goes, the further the leg goes away, the more challenging for your abdominal muscles. Now we're going to keep this leg here, and what I'd like you to do is slide one of your hands underneath your lower back. And if you don't have the capacity to do this, maybe you've got a shoulder injury, slide something underneath there, like a really thin towel or flannel, something like that. Now I want you to feel how your abdominals draw the spine and your lower back towards your hand or whatever item you have to underneath your lower spine. I want you to keep this. Deepen this. See if you can lighten the second foot off the ground without it being a reality yet. Now if you feel you can, without changing this, float the second leg up. Now we're going to lower one foot to the mat and then lower the second leg. Excellent. Now we're going to do this again, so we lift one leg up, deepen the back body, lower back draws towards the ground, and we lift the second leg. That's the hardest part. Now the hardest part here is lowering the first leg. Can you keep pubic bone lifting? Back ribs down. Might get a little shake, but that's okay. And then lower the second leg. We're going to do this one more time. So we lift up one leg, deepen the back body, and then lift. Hold for a moment, and then lower back down. And then second leg, and release your arms. Okay, if you've got something underneath your head, just pop it to the side and then check your neutral alignment. Okay, so half of the challenge with Pilates is recognizing what our body needs. So it's what level are we at, what do we need to work on? Okay, so that's part of it, especially for the stability. What we want to make sure is that our abdominals are supporting us and we're not working to a level that hinders our alignment. So bringing some more mobility to the spine. When you're ready, begin to tip your pelvis backwards, and we're going to start to lift the tailbone, the sacrum, and then each bone of our vertebrae from our lower back all the way up to a place that we feel comfortable to go to. Checking that the pubic bone is higher than the belly button's higher than the rib cage. So imagine the rib cage relaxing down as the back of the hips push the hips up. And then we're going to start to roll down. So trying to bring between the shoulder blades down, that bra line area, the middle back, the waist, the lower back, the pelvis, and then finally the tailbone. Let's go again. So we're going to start to roll up, tip the pelvis back, and we lift, 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 lift. Trying to lengthen the knees forwards, the thighs forwards. We're going to roll down. We're just going to come up one more time, and we're going to hold this. So loading our bones when we have osteoporosis is really good to help strengthen them. So we're going to stay up in our bridge position. I want you to find a position where the back ribs are still on the mat, so we're not quite entirely lifting up onto our shoulders as we may do. We're going to stay here and feel how your abdominals support the spine, the glutes support where the pelvis is. And we're going to start to press down heavy into your left foot. Your left hip extensors, so glute and hamstring, are going to start to fire. The right foot becomes light. If you can make it a reality, lift and hover the foot off the ground. And then slowly lower it back down. Your right foot now becomes the heavy leg, so push it into the ground. Check your two pelvic bones are level. Can you lighten your left foot? Maybe make it a reality and lift. And then lower. So this is challenging. If you need to lower a bit more of your spine to keep your pelvis still and access your abdominals and hip extensors, please do. Remember, the height of your pelvis or the higher your pelvis is, the more challenging this exercise becomes. So we're just going to do one more each side, everyone. So trying to keep the chest wide, taking a moment to find the heavy leg, find the softening of that light leg, and then if you can, lift. So the next time your right leg is your heavy leg and your left leg becomes your light leg, and once you've lowered it, we're going to lower all the way back down to the mat. Let's come into a side lying position. So bring the feet together and then roll to the side. Use anything that you might need to prop your head up. And then let's find that neutral spine again. So imagine the walls behind you. You've got the head, the shoulders, the ribs, the back of the pelvis against that imaginary wall. And your two pelvic bones are level. And we have our oblique muscles lifting our waist off the ground. So just enough space to slide your fingertips underneath there or an imaginary letter. Hand to your pelvis to check the stability, and feet together. Take an in breath. Exhale, open the knee out to the side. Inhale, lower. And let's go again. Exhale to open. Inhale to close. Now you can stay with this to challenge your balance a little bit more. Keep the knees down, lift your feet, and go again. So this is going to challenge your abdominal muscles to stabilize you. All the muscles of your torso to help you balance. And we're going to do two more. Excellent. Now lower the feet down, and I'd like you to extend both legs all the way along your mat. Now trying to find a straight line, so bring the backs of the heels against that imaginary wall now. And we're going to extend the underneath arm if you can. Grab anything that you might need to prop underneath your head. Now we're going to stay in this position. It's quite hard to balance on the side of our body, so you've got to feel the inner thighs connect, the abdominals zip up. And I'm going to ask you to lift your top arm up to the ceiling. Now we're going to start to float it overhead, drawing the shoulder blade down and then lifting the arm up. Now what we want to imagine is that we are stacked as if our feet are standing on the ground and we're upright. So we want to feel the pubic bone lifting, the tailbone reaching to the back of the heels. Let's make this bigger now by bringing it all the way down to the side of your body. I'm going to make it into a circle, so bringing the arm forwards, even more challenging, overhead, up, and then down. One more in this direction. So the forwards action of the arm is going to want to turn your body forwards, tip it forwards to face the floor. Can you keep your body stacked? Now stay here. I'd like you to reach both legs away from you and see if you can hover the underneath leg off the ground. We're going to hold for 2 breaths, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then slowly lower the legs, lower the arm. Bend the knees and push up to sitting. We're going to do that on the other side. So really good to challenge our balance when we have any bone issues, any spinal issues. So coming into our clam first, check you're aligned, your waist gap is there. When you're ready, breathe in, exhale, open the top knee, inhale, close. So just checking in as we get into our exercise. It's okay to make adjustments. So if you start to feel, oh, maybe my underneath shoulder's not feeling so great here, change your position. If you can, add the balance element so we lift the feet. So the underneath hip has to work now to lift the underneath leg. And I want you to squeeze your feet and your heels together, really engaging your sit bone area. Sometimes we can just go through the motions of an exercise, but I really want you to squeeze every single muscle in your hip. Good, warm them up to help us balance now. So we're going to lower the feet, stretch the legs out. Take a moment to find that straight line. So if we look down and we can just see our toes, that is great. If we can't see our legs at all, they're probably too far behind. This is my more challenging side. So even just lifting my arm is more challenging now. So I'm going to adjust my underneath arm like we did on the other side, and then reach up. Okay, when you're ready, start to reach overhead and come back. Ooh, I'm already starting to rock and roll. So where can you engage more to help you stabilise? Woo, I really am wobbly today. So for me, I think I need to lengthen into the floor more with my armpit. Yes, that's really worked for me. Maybe you need to level your pelvis. Maybe you need to connect with your inner thighs more. Let's go with that circle, okay? So this time we go overhead, you come down and back up. So just, I'm laughing at myself here because it really is challenging on this side. Have you got one side that is much more challenging than the other? And I thought it was the other side for me, but hey-ho. Okay, last one. Reach the arm up to the ceiling. Let's see how this goes. Stretch both legs long and see if you can hover. It may not be a big lift. Now, if we're wobbling, it's okay. This is going to make your abdominals, your torso muscles, every single core muscle in your centre work hard to keep you on your side. And then slowly lower the legs, lower your arm all the way down. We're going to push all the way up and we're going to come round into an all-fours position now. So come onto your hands and knees, hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. And find that straight line again from tailbone to the crown of your head. And your pelvic triangle, the 3 bones at the front of your hips, are going to be level with the mat now. Navel to spine, pelvic floor lifts. When you're ready, we're going to start to take our weight more onto our right arm. So our right arm becomes the heavy arm, and you're going to start to lift up your left hand towards the front of your shoulder. Lower it back down and then switch sides. So I want you to feel how the weight automatically shifts between your knees as you lift one hand off the mat. So which knee becomes heavy when you lift the right hand? For me it's the right knee. Which knee becomes, or thigh bone becomes heavier to the floor when you lift your left hand? Now what the body's going to want to do to make it easier for us is shift towards the side of the mat that the hand is lifting. So when my left hand lifts, it's going to make it easier by shifting my pelvis towards that side. So can you keep your chest and your pelvis completely still? So if we find this challenging to stabilise, I'd like you to stay with this. I want you to feel that you're connecting your upper and your lower body together by drawing front ribs down towards your 2 pelvic bones and sliding your shoulder blades and your armpit area down towards your waist. Now if you can, we're going to lighten the right hand, and we're also going to start to lighten the left shin. So just hover your right hand, hover your left shin off the ground and lower back down. Switch sides. So we hover. Can you keep the pelvis level? Can you keep the shoulders between the hands? And lower. One more time each side. So I'm not lifting the shin high because I'm trying to keep the back of the pelvis nice and still. And it's quite a lot to ask for our arms and our legs to bear the weight and our abdominals to help stabilise. Now this time, when we hover our right hand and our left shin, I'd like you to slide the arm and leg out. Hold this position. Can you draw the pubic bone to the belly button and the right shoulder blade down? We're going to lift the arm and leg up and down. 2 more times. Up and down. Only go as high as you can without moving anything in your centre. Slide in, keeping those that hand and knee hovering, and then lower down. Switch sides. So left hand hovers, right shin hovers. Slide out, reach away. Are you drawing your shoulder blades down, both of them. And then when you're ready, lift and hover and lower. Lift and hover and lower. Lift and lower. Last time. Lift and lower. Good. Slide in, keeping a straight spine, hinge the hips back, stretch your arms forwards and take a child's pose. So just let the shoulders lift. Feels quite nice to stretch out the back muscles. And then our final exercise, we're going to lower ourselves down onto our front, maybe second to last actually. So forearms to the sides. You may want something to prop underneath your forehead like a towel or a pillow again. Nodding your chin and placing it down. Now checking that the 3 bones at the front of your hips are on the mat, your legs are relaxed. Give your bottom a squeeze and then completely relax it. That's it. So we want to try and keep the bottom relaxed so the abdominals have the chance to do the work to stabilise your pelvis and your spine. On your next in-breath, slide the shoulders down the back and start to just peel your collarbones, your chest bone up off the mat. So it's not very high. Your head will lift, but tuck your chin slightly so the back of your neck is low. And then lower back down. Now this is our swan prep, our spinal extension. So the spinal extension is when we bend our spine backwards, we arch our spine. And we're trying to focus on the thoracic spine, the rib cage area, that part of the spine that bends forwards normally, flexes. And if we do have quite a flexed upper back and it's rounded, especially if we have osteoporosis, we can be prone to fractures. So that's why we don't ever want to do any loaded flexion or forward flexion. So extension is really good to open the front of the spine and for our posture. So checking into our lower back, we're not feeling any pinching, we're feeling the mid back doing the work, okay? Our abdominals are really drawing in and up, and I'm making sure that my glutes are trying their best to stay as relaxed as they were when we let them go. Now I'm going to challenge this now, so I'm going to lift my chest, stay here and see if I can keep my chest lifted by just hovering my arms up. Lower them down and then lower my chest. So if this is challenging, stay with just lifting and lowering your chest, because again you want to make sure that when you lift your arms you're not lifting the shoulders up to the ears and your chest isn't dropping down, especially we're not letting anything happen to our pelvis and our lower back. So just 2 more. Lift, arms lift, lower and release. Last time. So I'm really feeling that bra strap area. And then lower. Now we're going to take hands underneath the forehead. And feel that you're stretching both legs back. So we're going to feel the abdominals draw the lower back up towards the mat. So navel to spine, relax shoulders away from ears and tighten your sit bone area now. So we're really feeling the glutes do some work. Reach one leg back and lift. And then lower back down. So we extend the leg, feel in the front of the thigh work to lift the knee off the mat and then reach the foot back to lift and hover the leg. So we don't have to go for height here. If we're going for height, what tends to happen is lower back sinks. We're going to then start to move from the lower spine. We're going to feel this pinching, gripping action happening. What we want to feel is that it's the back of the hip. So the more that we lengthen away, and when the leg lifts, deepen the pubic bone down, that is going to help stabilise the lower back. What you could do is take one hand to your lower back and just check that it's not arching and pressing into the ground. Your lower belly doesn't feel heavy when you're lifting the legs. Now if you have the control of your lower back here and we're supporting it, we're going to lift both legs and then lower and lift and lower. Excellent. 2 more. Lift and lower, so you should feel some heat in the back of that legs. Lift and lower. So coming up to all fours, hands by your shoulders and press all the way up using your arm strength. Hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. Feel free to come onto your forearms if you have any wrist issues, and then tuck your 10 toes. Draw shoulders down. Navel to spine, pelvic floor lifts. Inhale and exhale. Press it down into the feet and the arms and lift and hover the knees. And inhale, lower. Now I want you to feel that when we lift, it's only a smidgen off the floor. Make your lowering even more slower than your lifting. We want to control it. Usually when we have weak supporting muscles here, we want to just crash down to the mat. So do as many as you can. We're just going to do one more after this one. But try and keep that control. So last time, lower and release. Take that child's pose again. So reach your arms forwards, sit your hips back, drop the shoulders away from the ears. Reaching your chest forwards, even further as you walk your fingers away. And then come back up to your all fours position, slide one leg forwards and come to a seated position. Take a breath in, reach your arms up. And breathe out, relax your arms all the way down. And just take a roll of your shoulders back and down. And thank you for joining me today. I hope the class helped you if you do have any spinal conditions. So it's great to know what you should and shouldn't be doing throughout your classes. So taking this knowledge into any other class you may do. And if you need to do any alternatives for the exercises that may have forward flexion, loaded flexion or any loaded rotation, feel free to do any of the exercises that we may have done today. So hope to see you again. Please subscribe below and click the bell icon for more notifications for new classes. I'll see you next time. Bye!